Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're diving into a franchise that's, well, it's pretty much the measuring stick for the annual gaming calendar, Call of Duty. We've got a bunch of sources here reviewing the latest one, Black Ops 7, and we're really zeroing in on the PlayStation 5 version specifically.
Yeah, and it's always interesting with these huge franchises, isn't it? There's that built-in tension. Like our sources are suggesting they're trying to balance that classic, kinetic Call of Duty intensity
Right.
with maybe a fresher narrative and really pushing the tech side of things.
Exactly. So our mission today is basically to pull out the most important insights on the game's big three pillars campaign, multiplayer, and zombies. And we want to figure out if this PS5 version is a genuine next-gen leap or maybe more of a highly polished evolution of what we expect. That whole evolution versus revolution question, that's going to be pretty central, I think.
Well, if you look at the bigger picture, for a yearly title this successful, sometimes evolution is exactly what the market wants. They crave that familiar adrenaline rush just tuned up. We need to see if those refinements really deliver on the hype.
Okay, so let's kick off where the game usually makes its first big splash,
Right.
the single-player campaign. The consensus from the sources seems overwhelmingly positive about the way the story is delivered.
Yes, the sources definitely flag the campaign as the immediate hook. It gets called bold and cinematic, almost engineered to feel like it's, ripped straight out of some high-budget spy thriller, that kind of paranoid vibe.
And that's pure Black Ops, right? That core theme of espionage,
Yeah.
shadowy conspiracies, Cold War paranoia, it's all there. But it sounds like the execution of the story, the technical side, is where the real polish is evident.
That's right. The reviews use specific language like, the writing is sharp, the pacing is relentless, and they highlight how the cutscenes, which look amazing, just blend seamlessly with the actual gameplay. It removes that jarring break between watching and playing.
Yeah, one source said it's designed to just grab you and not let go until the credits roll. Speaks volumes about their focus on intense storytelling.
And what's really key here, I think, is that the campaign is built for maximum impact. A quick, thorough, super polished burst of entertainment. However, and this loops back to our main theme, even with all that shine, there's a recurring critique. The sources suggest that, yeah, it's thrilling, but the plot does lean pretty heavily on some familiar tropes.
Okay. So the delivery method might feel revolutionary, but the story underneath might be more evolutionary.
Precisely. It's like a beautifully engineered sports car. But if you follow the genre, you might have a good guess where it's headed. The success really hinges on that relentless pace and technical fidelity, making the journey itself exciting enough that you don't mind the familiar destination too much.
Right. Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Let's pivot to the technical deep dive. Because the PS5 hardware integration, that's being called out as a major force multiplier. It suggests maybe the revolution is happening more under the hood, even if the core gameplay feels familiar on the surface.
Absolutely. The sources are pretty clear. This isn't just about looking prettier, though it certainly does. We're talking razor-sharp textures, sure, but also things like ray-traced lighting. And for anyone maybe not familiar, ray tracing isn't just shiny reflections. It means light behaves realistically. Proper dynamic shadows, bounces.
Yeah, that's that subtle layer of realism.
Exactly. It really boosts the immersion, especially in those cinematic campaign moments.
And that performance seems like that's a big plus, too.
Oh, definitely. The game runs, apparently, even in heavy firefights, buttery smooth.
Nice.
And those non-existent load times are highlighted as a massive quality of life win. You don't quite realize how much those little waits break the immersion until they're gone. Jumping in and out of missions becomes, as they say, an absolute breeze.
That smooth performance feels like table stakes for next gen now, right?
It's a baseline expectation, absolutely. But the really revolutionary bit, the thing that apparently changes the actual feel of playing on PS5, is the DualSense controller.
Ah, yes. The haptics and triggers, that's the PS5's unique selling point. How does Black Ops 7 use them? Is it just rumble or?
No, the sources sound genuinely excited about this. They stress that the adaptive triggers offer real resistance. Not just vibration, but like tension. So pulling the trigger on a heavy machine gun feels sluggish, weighty. A sniper rifle trigger feels crisp, sharp.
Okay, so it's not just a gimmick. It actually feeds you information about the weapon you're holding.
Exactly that. One review says it makes each weapon feel distinct, letting you almost sense the weight of the firefight through your hands. And the haptics, the general vibration, apparently map things like recoil patterns and nearby explosions right into your palms.
Wow.
You're not just seeing the gun kick, you're feeling the force. That sounds like a genuinely new layer of feedback for a shooter.
We should definitely touch on audio, too.
Yeah.
Crucial for shooters.
Absolutely critical, and the PS5's 3D audio gets singled out. It's not just good sound, it's potentially competitive sound. If you've got a decent headset, the positional audio is apparently so precise you can genuinely get an edge in multiplayer.
Oh, interesting. Like hearing footsteps.
Exactly. Tracking footsteps accurately, knowing if someone's above or below you, figuring out which doorway they're coming through before you see them. Sound becomes actual situational awareness.
Okay, that's a real advantage.
And one last tech bit for the hardcore players. They mention the welcome addition of 120 Hz support for compatible TVs or monitors.
Oh, the frames.
Yep. Super fluid, low latency visuals. Combine that 120 Hz performance with the precision 3D audio. That's pushing the envelope for competitive play.
So if the tech, especially the DualSense, is maybe the revolutionary part, how does the multiplayer stack up? That's always been the beating heart of COD for many. Does it go for big changes or stick to refining what works?
Well, the sources seem pretty unanimous. The core formula is classic Call of Duty. Fast, fluid, fiercely competitive. The whole conversation seems to revolve around refinement, that evolution idea, rather than any kind of radical reinvention.
Okay, so what specific refinements are getting called out? What makes this multiplayer feel better than the last one?
Map design is mentioned first. Maps are described as tighter and better balanced.
That's always key.
Yeah, really crucial. Sometimes in past games, maps could feel a bit too big, maybe some dead zones. Tighter maps mean more frequent encounters, keeping that high-octane pace going.
Makes sense. What else?
Beyond maps, the actual mechanics seem honed. Gunplay is called more precise than ever.
Why?
Suggests maybe tighter hit detection, less random bullet spray. And the weapon customization system is apparently meaningful this time. You can genuinely tune your loadout for your playstyle, not just stack attachments that don't do much.
Right, making those choices actually matter.
And this focus on small, smart improvements seems tied to the progression system too. It's described as highly addictive, giving out unlocks at a steady, satisfying rate.
Addressing the grind.
Exactly. Less of that feeling like you're grinding forever for the next cool thing. They want you hooked, coming back day after day, and consistent rewards are key to that loop.
And speaking of rewards, there was a little note about personalization. Something about an Amazon exclusive.
Yeah, a calling card. It sounds minor, but for the dedicated online community, those calling cards are like little badges of honor.
Right, they show off your status or maybe where you bought the game.
Precisely. It's that visible bit on your profile. Getting an exclusive one is a nice little perk for players who really care about customizing their online identity. It's a small community thing, but it matters to the regulars.
Okay, so multiplayer is a refined evolution. Let's move to that third pillar. Zombies. The sources seem really high on its return this year.
Yeah, one called it easily one of the strongest inclusions in this package.
Which does raise the question, doesn't it?
Great.
Zombies has been around like forever in Treyarch games. How do they keep it fresh? How do they get that mix right? The chaos, the progression, the secrets to earn that kind of praise again.
It sounds like it comes down to the map design and just layering in complexity. The reviews keep mentioning maps packed with secrets, clever layouts, and layers of strategy. It's clearly not just about surviving endless waves anymore.
Right. It's evolved past pure survival.
We've seen it grow into this thing with complex Easter egg quests, managing resources, setting up defenses. The strategy is coordinating with your team to figure all that out while, fighting off hordes of zombies.
And that unpredictable tension is probably key.
Absolutely. That co-op element means your success depends entirely on your team holding it together when things inevitably go sideways. One reviewer summed it up by saying it stays addictive because of that blend of teamwork and just absolute terrifying chaos.
Okay, so we've covered the big three. Campaign, polished, cinematic, maybe a bit familiar, tech, genuinely pushing things, especially with the DualSense controller, feels more revolutionary there. And multiplayer and zombies, prime examples of expert-level evolution, refining what works until it absolutely shines.
Yeah, that seems to be the pattern.
So what does this all mean? When we boil it down, what's the overall vibe? The game sounds like a super competent, highly polished package, something for everyone, campaign fans, multiplayer addicts, zombies players. By execution standards, it sounds like a massive success.
It definitely sounds like a strong, well-rounded package, but we do have to circle back to that main caveat, the one threaded through the reviews. While it's finely tuned, technically impressive, it doesn't completely break the mold. The final verdict seems to be. It's a confident, thrilling, and visually impressive entry, but still clearly an evolution, not really a revolution.
And that, for you listening, is probably the critical takeaway. If you want a reliable, super well-made action game, whether you're new or a series vet, this sounds like a great place to jump in. Because of that polish, that balance, it delivers the Call of Duty experience you expect, just extremely well executed.
Right. It's not taking huge risks with the core formula, but it seems to have perfected the existing machine for, maximum enjoyment for the most people.
So the reviews are overwhelmingly positive, really focusing on that strong execution across all the modes. We've established that the core gameplay, especially multiplayer, is textbook evolution, polished, refined, but not radically different. And this raises a really interesting question, I think, not just for games, but maybe for any long-running, successful creative thing. When you've got this huge, established audience, is maximizing that polish and refinement, is evolution actually safer, more predictable, maybe even more desirable for that audience than chasing a potentially disruptive revolution, a complete reinvention?
It definitely makes you think about that trade-off, doesn't it, between refining what works and taking a big creative risk? Does massive success inevitably lead to a reluctance to fundamentally change, even when the tech might allow for something totally new?
Something to chew on. That's our deep dive into the latest Black Ops. Until next time, keep exploring.